All right, what's up, Dragon Brood? By my count, I believe we're on day 8 officially of Dragonstorm Tarkir, or Tarkir Dragonstorm. I got that backwards. You know what I'm saying. Looks like there was only about 10 cards previewed today, so this should be a pretty quick one. Let's get into it. All right, first one up is Frontline Rush. It's a red and a white, so 2 mana for an instant. You choose one. Create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens, or target creature gets +X/+X to a turn where X is the number of creatures you control. This is pretty interesting. Because we have, what is it, Dragon Fodder, I think is the other card, that is 2 mana, makes 2 1/1 goblins, but that's a sorcery. You get to do the same thing at an instant speed here. Now, admittedly, it does cost you another color of mana, but if you are attacking with like 6 tokens or 7 tokens, like you can make one of them +5, +6, like that's a pretty big deal overall. So yeah, also just makes a token big enough to take down a big blocker potentially. I have to say, if you're playing a tokens deck, this could be something worth considering. I don't know. I'm trying to think about this compared to something like reinforcements, right? Where you get the 1/1 actual card and 1/1 token. This is kind of the same, but you get more upside. They're not soldiers or humans or whatever, but you know, maybe this is interesting. I could see a world where this does get some play though. Amusingly, could it possibly work in the Boros tokens deck, right? Where you're trying to just get as many things as you can and then everything gets +2 in attacks or whatever, right? Like maybe, like there's definitely some uses for a card like this. Continuing the trend we've seen in every color, there's another 3 color with split mana that you can pay 2 for each one, but this is Kin Tree Severance, white, black, and green, or 6 generic mana. Instant, exile target permanent with mana value 3 or greater. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, you definitely play this, I would think. Well, I say definitely. It's definitely going to be a metagame consideration, right? Because if you're running into a bunch of, I don't know, Esper Pixie and mono red aggro, then this card's not going to be very good because all the spells cost 3 or less, right? Most of them cost 1 or 2. So this card's not going to do much. But if we're in a world full of domain control with ley lines and overlords and whatever, then this card's great, right? Like it's an instant speed card that can kill pretty much everything in that deck, except for maybe Beanstalk. But like, you know, even mono black mid range when you're talking about having demons and shieldrids and whatever, like it works against that. So this is a card that, depending on what the metagame looks like, this card will determine if it gets played or not, right? It's interesting because it's a really good card and has the right words, but if the metagame's wrong, then this card's just no good. Could be an interesting sideboard card, though, if you play best of 3. Here's another Abzan card, Felithar Dawn of the Abzan. What? It's just in the name. White, black, green, 3/3, legendary human warrior with trample. When it enters or attacks, you may sacrifice a non-land permanent. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Wow. Ooh, that's kind of good. That's actually really good. And if you have anything that gets extra bonuses for more counters, this might be 2 or 3 counters on things. This is, ooh. Yeah, I don't know what the Abzan +1/+1 counter deck looks like, but we got like 5 more cards in this preview season that contribute to that build. So it's very possible this could be an interesting piece for that deck. And it just has trample as a bonus, which is kind of cool. Yeah, this is one I would keep an eye on this. I don't know if it's going to be a format breaker, but it definitely could be a key piece in an important deck. Okay, I had to go to the translator for this one, but this is Humble Elder. 1 blue human monk with flash. It's a 1/2. And when it enters the battlefield, target creature an opponent controls gets -2/-0. It's a fun trick if you're playing limited. Pretty sure we're not going to play this in 60 card formats. Not sure there's much else to say about this one. Jeskai Revelation. Some crazy looking artwork here, but it's 4 blue, red, white, so 7 mana for an instant. Return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. Jeskai Revelation deals 4 damage to any target. Create 2 1/1 white monk creature tokens with prowess. Draw 2 cards. You gain 4 life. That is a lot. And now, admittedly, this card costs 7, so we won't get too hyped yet. But you get to basically pseudo counter a spell because you can return a spell or a permanent to its owner's hand. Then you deal 4, so you're probably Worst case scenario, bounce a creature, kill a creature, right? Create 2/1/1 monks, which could also be blockers on the same turn, and then, or be ready to attack the following turn. Then you get to replace itself and something else, so you get a bonus card, right? So you're ahead on cards now, and you gain 4 life. Yeah, this card, like if there's a Jeskai control deck that exists, 2 copies of this could be like the near model card for that type of deck, right? And don't forget, we still have that artifact from Phyrexia, the one that like you put a counter on during your upkeep and then all your instants and sorceries cost 1 less. That thing, the blue one, like that would be perfect for this type of card, right? Like a deck around that that's playing Jeskai control could really take advantage of something like this. Yeah, as crazy as 7 mana sounds, there is a world where this becomes a very viable card. And I would assume after you cast this, you're in a pretty commanding position, or at least in a good spot to turn things around. Sage of the Skies. 2 and a white for a 2/3 human monk. When you cast this spell, if you've cast another spell this turn, copy this spell. Flying and lifelink. Oh, so this is interesting. So if you played something first and then you play this, you get to copy it. Well, see, this is another card that goes into the whole flurry, play your second spell, whatever type deck. Now, the interesting thing is this deck is probably going to want like 12 creatures, 16 creatures that care about your second spell, but then you also need a bunch of really cheap spells. Now, the good thing about this is it could be a creature spell you played before, right? So if you play some other 1 mana thing and then this, it's kind of cool. 2/3 flying lifelink, and you could get 2 of them basically for an output of 4 mana. So you get whatever you cast plus this plus a copy. Yeah, seems reasonable. If that deck's legit, this will probably be part of it. Thunder of Unity. Red, white, black for a Saga. First chapter, you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. All right. Chapters 2 and 3 are the same. Whenever a creature you control enters this turn, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is kind of a weird card. Like, don't get me wrong, draw 2, lose 2. We've seen all types of variations of that in black over the years. But whenever a creature you control enters, lose 1, gain 1. And you get to do that on 2 consecutive turns. I mean, I guess if your whole plan is just to play some amount of tokens anyway, and you're doing like the Mardu, Zergo, whatever thing, then this just makes sense anyway, right? You take a turn off to draw 2 cards, and then, your life total probably isn't under too much duress. And then the next turn, you go to attack if you have some of the stuff that has whatever the new keyword is, right? You attack, you make your tokens. Those drain your opponent, so it's like bonus damage. Yeah, all right. I see where this could fit. I see where it could fit. It just feels a little weird because the first part feels disconnected from the rest of it in a way. But getting cards is obviously never a bad thing. It just is a little quirky and a little odd. Unsparing Boltcaster. 2 and a red for an ogre wizard. Interesting, a mid-sized wizard, I guess. It's a 3/3. When this creature enters, it deals 5 damage to target creature and opponent controls that was dealt damage this turn. I was almost with it until we got to the part that was dealt damage this turn. Oh, man. I don't know if we're ever playing this. Again, limited, card's great, right? Somebody chump blocks your 1/1. You're like, great, take 5, kill off the big thing, and I still have a 3/3 to show for it. Great card in those scenarios. I just don't know if there's going to be enough value at all, unless you're playing something just really wants ogres or wizards, to really take advantage of this in standard. It's just not what we're going to be looking for, I would think, in most cases. Lacid Prowler. 2 green for a 5/5 Snake Ranger. Okay, so 4 mana 5/5s, always a card we can talk about. It's a Snake Ranger. When this creature enters, you may mill cards equal to the number of lands you control. And then it has Renew, which you play from the graveyard. So 1 and a green. You exile this card from the graveyard. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature, where X is the number of lands in your graveyard. Activate only as a sorcery. Huh. This is kind of an interesting card. I don't know what we're doing with this. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a 4 mana 5/5, so we could just fight with it, right? Like, it's a big body. And that might be its lot in life. It might just be the card you're just battling with. And then when it's in the graveyard, you get the extra option of just pumping something up like 4, 5, 6 mana or points, right? Maybe that's all we're doing with it. Maybe it's just one you don't overthink. Because I'm thinking like, I don't know. I guess there's also the world where we have seen some mill decks that are also playing like Achik and some of the other things that make like the flying bugs or whatever, the insects. This could be perfect in there where you fill the graveyard, get one of those in, you get a bunch of tokens, you just make one of the tokens like +5 or something. Like that's possible. So maybe it just does work for self-mill decks on some level. I just don't know how many of the self-mill decks have room for another 4 mana thing. It's kind of my issue right now. But you never know. I mean, it might fit in a couple different spots. Dragonfire Blade. 1 mana, which is already good. Any cheap equipment has a chance of being played. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and hexproof from mono colors. Ooh, equip 4. It's a high equip cost. This ability costs 1 less to activate for each color of the creature at target. Oh, okay. So if you're playing this on a 2 or 3 color thing, you might equip for 1 or 2 mana. So that's kind of cool. Hexproof from mono color. That's very interesting. Because we do run into a lot of like mono black, mono red. That being said, future standard might be a lot of Abzan, Mardu, whatever. But what removal spells are they playing, right? Because if the removal spells are still just a 3 damage burn spell or a go for the throat or whatever, then this is actually really good. Yeah, it feels like it's going to be metagame dependent, but has a possibility. It at least has possibilities. I don't know, y'all. Today was a very small list, but it felt like there were a lot of deck parts and things that could find their way in. A game changer in the Jeskai card, a really good tokens card. You know, like lots of good stuff. Like I can see a lot of cards from today finding their way into lists, which is interesting. And it was only like 10 cards. Like this set is ridiculous. But y'all let me know what you think. Am I overvaluing some of the cards today? Does it sound like I'm crazy? I don't know. I'll link yesterday's previews, going to get you caught up from the last 2 days. Otherwise, that's all I have for now. We'll see you next time.